Hey, this is Julian Victor, fellow international from the Explorers Club F122, and I am here with an amazing world-renowned conservationist. He is an author, an educator, I've heard a marketing genius, and an amazing conservationist. So thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, pleasure, Julian. Thank you, man, for inviting us here to the Explorers Club event at Fjällräven in Toronto.
And you are also a Explorers Medal winner.
Yeah, I got
Or
the
a recipient, I should say.
Shackleton Medal for service to conservation. It's my third event, first one in Canada, and very lucky and happy to be giving my talk on rhino conservation.
Yes, and it's a very, very important talk to have. So before all of that, let's go to the beginning. How did you get into conservation?
Yeah, I mean, unbeknown to me, I'd started when I was a kid. You know, I was in the bush in the wild areas in southern Africa and Eastern Cape, and speaking the local languages, and ironically hunting animals and killing them. And then I started poacher turned gamekeeper. And only later on, when we started rewilding the land and turning it back into wild conservation areas, that I realized that this was a calling that God had given me the ability to do.
That is so incredible, and it's great that you're able to dedicate your life to preserving all these beautiful, iconic African creatures, and the one that is in that category are rhinos. In your first book, The Last Rhino, you shared your experiences and your stories protecting these iconic species that are so beloved by so many. What do you love about rhinos, and what makes them so captivating?
Well, I'm sure every kid, when they're small, gets a dinosaur as a gift, you know, and with the Jurassic Park and that. But these are the living dinosaurs, the rhinos. I mean, and I think we are so privileged to be touching, feeling, looking, saving the dinosaur, the only sort of living species of mega herbivores on Earth that have been around for 55 to 60 million years on this planet.
They've been hit really, really hard from poaching due to the belief that their horns are medicine. From 2008 to now, we've lost about 11,000, which is insane. So what have been some of the struggles and challenges that you have faced when trying to protect them?
I think the struggles that we have, Julian, is that the poachers always seem to be one step ahead of the law, or you know, just the landscape that we operate on. If it's not corruption, if it's not you know, distrust in people, it could be people are starving and the money's too good, so they, you know, deceive their bosses, which is sometimes the government or sometimes the private sector. And the demand and the price of this myth that is the rhino horn, which is merely a keratin like our hair, you know, is so large that it's just a greedy underworld of corruption, and we're trying to dispel that myth, and we're trying to devalue the horn with all sorts of demand reduction tactics.
So you are actually the director of Project Rhino. Within that, there's an initiative called Rhino Art. Could you give a background of both of those projects?
To go back to Rhino Art, it was basically an educational program for the youth of the world. Started in Africa by a great explorer called Kingsley Holgate. It's ironically, we're in one of the exploration outfitters called Fjällräven. And it's a lesson on a page, passport to talk to a child, to go to a school, go to an establishment, give them a blank piece of paper and say, you discover what you think is a genius way of stopping poaching. And this piece of paper will be a petition to the law of the day, be it the CITES, be it the government of Canada or South Africa or Southern Sudan, to stop or be able to reduce poaching. So these children actually are very creative. They're not only drawing, they are predicting what the problems are in the world. That, you know, it's a violent society, there's guns, there's money, there's livelihoods, there's blood, there's bullets flying, there's helicopters, you know. So all that comes out in the art, and we judge the piece of paper, and those people that win this award or come top of the class get the added bonus of prizes and going to see live rhinos. So we realize now that during this program they get a question on their page, have you ever seen a rhino in the wild? And we found out that about 2% of the world doing rhino art, and we are nearly on 1 million kids now, have not seen rhinos. Or 2% have seen them, 98% have not seen them. And how can we save something we haven't seen? So our vision is to try and get the children into the wild to be able to see these unbelievable creatures.
That's great, because having myself seen a rhino and been fortunate enough to do so in the wild was an incredible experience, just to see them up close, and there's no fence, there's no boundary marker, there's no nothing. It's just you and them and you're in their space, and you're in their territory, and it was just a great experience to have, and I hope so much more kids get to experience that. And that's part of Project Rhino.
Yeah, so Project Rhino is an organization, as you said, Julian, non-profit that looks after about 400,000 hectares of rhino range with all the rhinos and collaborates with all the owners of these properties. Supplies aircraft, dogs, personnel, boots, binoculars, and all the associated, plus the community element and also the educational element, as well as the rewilding element, which gives space for rhinos.
Your current book is called Rewilding Africa. I've heard that word a lot, rewilding. Could you kind of explain and break down what rewilding actually is?
Yeah, so rewilding is the definition of taking a piece of marginal land or disturbed farming land and turning it back to its natural state. If you pretended to be in the city here, if you rewilded the rivers, you would bring the foxes and the squirrels and the coyotes and everything back, and they would be able to live and hunt symbiotically with whatever they need to do. So in the wild areas, what we're trying to do is make corridors so that elephants can survive and move from one province, country on without the restriction of fences, through corridors and human intervention.
So, and how important it is to have community involvement when it comes to conservation initiatives like Project Rhino?
Yeah, so community are probably the forgotten people, because nobody ever gave the community enough sense to say that they are the most important parameters in conservation in transfrontier areas. People have never educated them as to the benefits of the conservation, and people have never really given them a livelihood through the eyes of the conservation. And through tourism and marketing, now we've created more opportunities for people to see the benefits of that. But having said that, the elephants also eat their crops and raid their houses and fear their lives. So there's a constant battle between the good and the bad and the ugly. And it's our job to be able to explain to them that these elephants are there to protect them or give them a livelihood that they may think that there is not.
I guess that's like an ongoing challenge when they're like, where's my crops? It's not like a squirrel taking something from your garden. It's like elephants could literally demolish a year's worth of food for them. So it must be incredibly challenging to be like, hey, so elephants are great. So I could imagine that. To touch back on with the rewilding, what are some of the strategies and methods that you use to utilize with the wildlife crimes and also to conserve the rhinos or elephants or other animals, whether it be like GPS or technology or dogs? Like, what exactly are they?
Yeah, so technology is playing a major part, especially the one I'm dealing with right now is elephants have got collars and they are able to alarm. There's bee programs where people plant or hang bees up on a fence. The elephants are I nearly said shit scared of bees, but they are. And chilies, they don't like chilies, so we plant chilies in the marginal areas, which give the community a livelihood. They give them a chili crop, and they also give them honey. So, you know, that's a symbiotic type of thing. And then there's obviously the education, you know, and then there's the monitors, so they get paid to be monitors. But technology, satellite technology, and, you know, shocking collars, even like your dog, you know, to put shocking collars on, you know, to prevent them going near the fence or whatever.
What advice would you give to an individual who wants to inspire to get into the field of conservation?
Yeah, the advice that I would give the youth of today is that it is a calling that you are not going to get very wealthy on, but it will certainly show you a lifestyle that you'll never be regret, because nature is something, and Julian alluded to this in our conversations, that it's something that will burn in your heart forever, you know. And once you're touched by the laws of the jungle or the wildlife and the birds and the bees, and have this interaction with them, that you'll never regret it, irrespective of what you get paid. But you know, there's a lot of careers now in conservation. There's a lot of PhDs, and you can either go into the scientific side of conservation, or you can go into the actual interaction, ranging side of it, or you can be like Julian and do the media, you know, and be the face of TV screen, you know.
Oh, stop, thank you.
and have a good smile and a good hairdo.
Thank you. I tried. I did it all for you today. And lastly, there are people that have never seen rhinos, or would not ever have the experience or fortunate to go and see them. What can people do at home, both locally and globally, to help rhinos and other species?
I think you need to read up what the problems are. You need to understand the dynamics of everything that's happening that's wrong in the world. And once you've done that, you've got to realize and get in touch with reputable organizations throughout the world and study, you know, who they are and what they mean in the world of preservation, and then follow them, interact with them, you know, come in and go on internships, volunteer products or volunteer tourism and so on, and then decide after the hard knocks, the world of hard knocks and disappointments, and seeing the death and the survival and the attrition that happens in the wild. See if you got the stomach for that, because all that glitters is not gold. But certainly, it's you'll never regret it.
Very, very rewarding, and you're right, it ain't easy. Let me tell you. But yes, thank you so much, Grant. It's been a pleasure. But last thing, are rhinos actually your favorite animals? Or if you were to come back as an animal, would it be a rhino?
Yeah, because you got to be thick-skinned, and you got to have such a thick skin that people tell you, yeah, I've had death threats, I've had long journeys away from home, a lot of times that you think, well, what the hell am I doing this for, you know? But when you look at that bouncy little baby that you've had, you know, in the bush, and it's survived, and it grows to be big and majestic, and people are crying when they see these animals and touching them, then yeah, I think I'll come back as a rhino. But hopefully by then the poaching will be over.